Hey guys, welcome to the tutorial, and today we will discuss about the variables. So what are the use of variables in Java? So let's discuss. So what are the variables? Basically the variables are the piece of memory that can contain a data value, right? If we want to we want to calculate something, two numbers, so how can we do that? We can assign that value to a variable, and then we can perform addition to them, and that value will be stored in again another variable in the memory. And we will discuss this in detail. And first we will discuss about there are different type of variables. Okay, so why there are different type of variables is because if you see, you can give a carrot to a rabbit, but you cannot give a piece of chicken to rabbit. Same way, there are different type of values like character values, integer values, fractional values. So you cannot assign fractional value to integer variables, and you cannot assign character value to integer variables, right? You cannot assign character value to the float variables. Okay, so that's why there are different kind of variables, and we have to assign the values accordingly. Like these byte, short, int, and long, they are integer type of variables, and this is a character type variable. And these are float and double are the variables in which we can store fractional variables, fractional values. And in Boolean, we can store the value of true or false. If our statement is true or false, we can store it in Boolean variable. So what are these byte, short, int, long integer variables? They have different sizes. This is a byte is 8-bit value, and short is 16-bit value. Integer is 32-bit value, and long is 64-bit value. So you cannot store 64-bit value into the byte variables. Like if you cannot store the clothes in your luggage more than its capacity. So what will happen? Your luggage will be broken, right? So same way, we cannot store the value of a variable in a variable which doesn't have its capacity, right? So we will discuss this in detail now. So these are the integer variables: byte, short, int, and long. Okay, and these variables stores the whole value, like 2, 4, 5. Okay, and the byte is 8-bit, and short is 16-bit, and integer is 32-bit, and long is 64-bit. So you cannot store this much amount of data value into this much, right? You can measure that from the size. Okay, so that's why we have to assign the value accordingly. In the same way, these are the floating point variables like float and double, in which we can store the fractional value like 2.2, 4.5, 5.3, etc. Okay, and double, and size of the double, you can see, is more as compared with the float. So you cannot store its double's value into the float, right? So this is the character variable. You can store character value into these variables, like names or normal strings. Any kind of string you can store in this kind of variables. And in Boolean, we have already discussed, we can store false or true values, right? So how it works, how it stores the value into the memory. Let's see. So when we when we assign variable, declare a variable. So if we see here, we have declared integer. Integer is the type of that variable, and number is the name of that variable, or we can say it identifier. So when we assign it, we declare it. It is stored in the memory like this, number one. Okay, but we haven't assigned any value to this variable, so that block is empty. Okay, same way we assign integer number 2. Okay, and integer number 2 is declared in the memory, and there is no value assigned to it, so it is empty. And integer result is also declared, but that value is not assigned, so it is empty. So what we will do now is we will assign a value to these variables. So these are this is integer variable number 1, and we have assigned value 10 to it. Okay, so you can see in the memory it will be stored like this, number 1 and value is 10, and number 2 is 7, and number 2 and value is 7. So we haven't assigned any value to result variable, but actually what we want to do is we wanted to add number 1 and number 2 and store its value to result variable. Okay, so what we call it, dynamic initialization. So when we run the program, number 1, there will be addition of number 1 and number 2, and the output value will be stored in the result. Okay, and suppose when we add it, 10 plus 7, 17, the value of 10 plus 7 will be stored in result, and 17 will be stored in result like this. So that's how we store values to the variable. So now what we will do is we will write program to assign value, and we will see how it reacts if we assign wrong values to some variable. Or suppose if we want if we store a fractional variable, fractional value to integer variable, or integer value to fractional variable. So let's see. Okay, so let's write a program to assign and declare variables, and let me write a new class. I will name it variable test. Finish. And here we will declare a main method. This is open, and here we will declare our first variable, like we have declared int, and integer variable a, variable name is a. Okay, and then float b, and let's first see how it works. So if I want to print the value, we have declared it. First we will assign a value to it. Okay, so a is equal to 10, and b is equal to 5.2. Okay, and let's print the values is out dot println. So first we will print a here. I'm sorry. Okay, there's some problem here. Let me see what is it. Okay, as we can see that it's the error says cannot convert from double to float. So basically we must assign this value and variable type to double. Okay, see, now there is no error. Let me run it. Okay, so we have printed 10 here, and now if I print B, and it will give us output 1.2. Okay, but how about if I assign whole number to fractional variable, like if I give 2, it will change it to 2.0, right? So that's how we can assign different kind of value to the variables. I hope you like the tutorial, and next we will discuss about Java operators. To now, if you like the video, please like the video and subscribe my channel. Thank you very much.